everyone, and welcome. We at the Evesham SDA Church are excited to have you here for the 1-week Health Reset webinar series. Over the next week, we'll be sharing simple, powerful steps you can take to transform your health, and it all starts right now. Throughout this series, you'll learn topics like unlocking the 8 pillars of health, exposing the #1 killer, and even practical demonstrations in water treatments. Each night, we'll focus on small, easy-to-follow actions that will help reset your body and mind. Plus, there is a downloadable handout of the key points covered each night. You can download it in the comments section below. By the end of the week, you'll be on your way to feeling your best, inside and out. Whether you're just getting started on your health journey or looking to take your wellness to the next level, this is your chance to reclaim your health in just 1 week. Join us now for this segment of the 1-week Health Reset series, and get ready to take the first step toward a healthier, happier you.
All right, good night, everyone. And happy Monday. Now, you guys are hearing me okay? Do I need to use the mic? You guys are hearing me okay, right? Okay, great. So, we are back here for night number 2 of our Health Week. And we will be going into tonight's presentation. Now, there are some handouts that will be coming to you. And if you're watching it online, you can download it. Right? So, the link will come up, you can download it. And this will be the handout that we'll be using tonight. Now, we looked last night at the 8 laws or the 8 pillars of health. And this was the foundation for what we'll be doing for the rest of the week. Now, the topic tonight is, why do we really get sick? Why do we really get sick? Let us bow our heads to prayer. Dear loving and kind Father, we just want to thank you, Lord, for bringing us back here another night where we can come and study the laws of health. We ask, Lord, that your Holy Spirit may fill this place. We ask that I may decrease and you increase. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so we are looking at the topic, why do we really get sick? Now, what do you think? If you somebody were to ask you, why do you get sick? What would the answer you give them? Why do you think you get sick? Okay, one says breaking the laws of health, poor health habits, maybe bacteria, maybe viruses. All of these are different answers that people would normally think when they get sick. So let us look at it. Let's see if sickness is something that happens to us, happens because of the environment we are. Is it something because of genetics? And tonight we're going to go into the study and see exactly what is really causing sickness. Now, our text for the week, and by the time this week is finished, you're going to learn this text by heart. It is Exodus chapter 15 and verse 26. Exodus chapter 15 and verse 26. Exodus chapter 15 and verse 26. And when we are there, we'll read it together. Alright? So I believe we are there-ish. And it says, "And the Lord said, If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep his laws, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee." Now, what we will understand from this verse is that God is telling us right off the bat that diseases are directly connected to our obedience or disobedience of laws, of his laws, right? Now, once we follow his laws, we can expect to be disease-free at a basic level. If we disobey his laws, we can expect to encounter diseases, right? Now, Proverbs 26:2, and partly puts it another way, and I'll read it in hearing. It says, "The curse causeless shall not come." And what you will realize as we go in here is that we are going to find what is the true cause of disease. We're going to see if disease is something genetic, is it something because of the environment. We already see here from the first text that it has a link to the law, but we're going to go deeper with it. Right? So it says, "The curse causeless shall not come." Now, there is one definition I like about this, when it comes to disease, and it's found in one of my favorite books, Ministry of Healing, page 127. And this is what we're going to use to build upon tonight. It says, disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from the violation of the laws of health. Disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from the violation of the laws of health. Now, just to make this easy, we're going to use our little board here tonight, right? So there are some words that are going to come out, and let me know if you guys are seeing I can write bigger. If you guys are not seeing I can write a lot bigger. Alright, so let's bring, and you have it in a column if you look in your handout. Right, we're going to have 5 columns. So let's make sure we have 5 columns. That will give me about 6 lines, right? I believe. Right, and that should be it. Right, everybody seeing that? Okay. So, it says that disease, and let's put disease over here. Disease is an effort of nature to free the system. So before disease comes, there is something happening. The system is being freed. Right? So we're just going to write system freeing. Everybody can see that? Right. System freeing. Now, according to the definition, what is the system being freed from? Conditions. Right? So let's write it here. Conditions. Now, how did these conditions come about? The conditions came out from a violation. I know I had a little bit too much columns, you know. I was wondering how I'm scrambling for space like that. Okay. From violations. Now, what was violated? The laws of health. Laws of health. Right. So, we now have a working place here. We could call this one the end or the finish. Let's tighten that. The finish. This is the finish line here. Right? And we can call this the start. Alright, everybody follow me so far? Right. So, if we want to move the arrow, we'll be going like this. So, if we have a disease, we have to work our way back. We have to see, first of all, what was the system freeing itself from? What were the conditions that were developed? What law was violated? All laws. Does that make sense? So, it means for us to understand what a disease is, we must be reminded of the laws of health. And we did them last night. So for those of you who missed last night, we're going to do a quick recap. So the first one is pure air. The next one is sunlight. Very good. Alright, after sunlight, abstemiousness or temperance. Right, so let's just write temperance. What was the next one? Rest. Very good. And if I'm not mistaken, it's on the handouts, right? Right, rest. After rest, exercise. After exercise, proper diet. Very good. Then, the use of water. And finally, trust in divine power. Alright. So these are the laws of health. Now what we're going to do next, and this is really going to show you how all of this works together. We are going to take some different diseases, right? And we're going to work our way back. And you're going to see how this whole thing connects. Because the goal of this is that when you leave here at the end of tonight or the end of this week, that whatever disease you encounter or your family member or co-worker, you must be able to work back and help them to fix that disease. Now, as we also said last night, you will notice that none of these here cost money. Pure air, sunlight, temperance, rest, exercise, proper diet, the use of water, trust in divine power. None of these cost money. All of these were given to us by the Creator. Right? So, let us start here. We're going to start with one that is well known to us, and let's go with heart disease. Now let's start to work our way back. Now tonight we're going to focus on the violations and the laws of health. We're going to work our way back. Right? So, we have heart disease. The system is all going to try and regulate itself. Right? For tonight, we're going to, just to keep it easy, I'm going to focus on the conditions, the violation, and laws of health. Right? Because system frame could vary on different diseases. So this one, we're just going to focus on that. So, one of the conditions that you will see in somebody who has heart disease is elevated blood pressure. I'll just put elevated BP. Now, why is that? Because one of the symptoms of heart disease, or one of the leading things, could be a clogged artery. And as if you take a hose and you squeeze the mouth of the hose, does the pressure increase or does it decrease? Increases, right? It goes out with more force. So that's the same thing that happens when your arteries start to close up. Which is why when you go and take your blood pressure reading, you'll start to register higher than normal blood pressure readings. Right? Now, what could be a violation of heart disease? What laws of health could be violated? Proper diet. Let's start with the most obvious one. So, proper diet. So, a violation of the laws of health by proper diet could be eating highly processed foods. So let's just put highly processed. It could be eating high fats. And we're talking about the bad fats. It could be eating too much. Right? It could also be eliminating vegetables, eliminating fruits, eliminating grains. So if you're constantly eating, for example, white rice, white bread, we don't want to use food company names, but fast foods, but you hardly eating fruits, grains, nuts, these are things that protect your heart. And by eliminating them, this could lead to an elevated blood pressure. Now I want to stick up in here. When you break the law of health, right? It's a sequence of events. So let's say you started here. You started eating improper foods, highly processed foods, high fat foods, saturated fats, lots of meat, and your blood pressure started to be elevated. The condition shows up to give us a warning. So think of the condition as a warning on your dashboard or your phone. So you know sometimes when your phone battery going low, it starts to give off a warning. Maybe a chime, maybe a song, maybe the actual display turns red. So that is a warning. Now, if this warning is heeded and you take corrective action, it does not have to progress to a disease. So it's not, keep in mind that not because you break the law of health, you will automatically move right on to a disease. These are sequence of events. Right? So you violate the law, a condition shows up in your body. The condition shows up to give you a warning. Hey, something is wrong inside. If you take corrective action, then you remove the condition, you stop the violation, and you go back to normal. Make sense? Right. So that is one. Now, what about exercise? Same heart disease. The heart is a muscle. As with any muscle, if you don't use it, what will happen to it? You will lose it. Right? So if you do not move, I always say exercise, we are not talking about going to sign up for a gym membership. We are just talking about regular movements. That could be your housework, that could be gardening, that could be walking to and from. As long as you're keeping active, you are activating the heart. As the heart is activated, the muscle is working, as such it would not progress into this. Right? Make sense? Now let's look at the next common one. So let's look at, for example, asthma. Right? So asthma is the disease. What are some of the conditions that show up themselves with asthma? Shortness of breath, wheezing, right? So let's just put wheezing there. Now, what could be some violations here? Okay, let's try pure air. So, how could we violate pure air? Okay, staying in a room with improper circulation. So if you're always working in air condition, for example, and you check in at 8 o'clock, you leave here at 4 o'clock, you never come outside. That is just recirculated air, right? Again, if you, depending on where you live, let's say you live in the city, and you are constantly inhaling the fumes, because in the city you have more traffic, more movement, and as such you're constantly getting the fumes, you're never taking time out to go out in the country, or even surrounding your home with plants that will help to purify the air, you are taking in impure air. Left untouched, after a while, it will develop into some wheezing. Now if you realize that, hey, I'm having problems breathing, right, and we're talking like real elementary, right, you find that, hey, I'm always stuffy, so you might start to get congested. You might find you always have mucus, right, these are some of the warning symptoms. So the next one that come up here before the wheezing could be mucus. Or every morning you wake up, you have allergies. Something is off. That is your body telling you, hey, something is off. Right? If you take corrective action, and let's say, for example, the office, you start to spend more time outside, or if you have the option, you start to open your office window. I know it is a little bit hot now, but you start opening your office window. You surround the office with some plants, like the snake plant, the aloe vera plant, and it helps to purify the air. This could reverse the condition and never progress to asthma. Left untouched, then it could progress to asthma. And next thing that could affect asthma could also be diet. There are certain foods that will trigger a reaction in your body. And if you constantly eat these foods, you're constantly producing mucus, you're constantly clogging up the pathways, you will start wheezing, left untouched will develop into asthma. Right? Now let's try diabetes. So, diabetes is a disease. The obvious condition will be elevated blood sugar readings. So when you go and take your blood sugar and see blood sugar always high. If you take the HbA1c, that is even higher, right? And then after a certain level, they'll diagnose you with being diabetic, right? Whether stage 1, whatever the case is, right? Well, not stage 1, being diabetic, pre-diabetic, okay? Now, this diabetes didn't just show up. This diabetes had to progress. And let's just go through a few of them. So, start with pure air. Do you think that impure air could cause diabetes? By itself, maybe not. But in conjunction with others, it could. Why? Because when there's anything foreign in your body reacts to it by producing inflammation. Easiest way to understand this. You know, whenever you used to bite your nails and you bite too deep, and you used to have, as we call it, the pus, right here? That is the body's reaction. So the same thing happens inside. Whenever there's a rupture, whenever there's a foreign substance and it interferes with the body, your body produces that same inflammation inside the body. Right? And the inflammation left unchecked will continue to, well, let's just say it continues to multiply. Right? It can have more and more inflammation. Right? How could pure air do that? Remember, air carries particles. So just like you could eat improper foods, you could breathe in improper things, trigger inflammation reaction. High inflammation levels could contribute, left unchecked, adding more violation to diabetes. Right? Sunlight. How could sunlight contribute to it? Every cell in your body has vitamin D, a vitamin D receptor. Right? Sunlight produces vitamin D. Right? So there is a link there. Again, it's not directly linked, but it is a contributing factor. Right? Now, what about abstemiousness or temperance? How could temperance or intemperance produce diabetes? So let's just go with this. What is temperance? Temperance is doing that which is good, enough of it, abstaining totally from that which is bad. So it's not living for the stomach's sake, it's abstaining totally from that which is bad and using only enough of what is good. Right? That is temperance. So let's say you are studying for a degree. Right? You're studying for a degree. I'm going to tie temperance right into rest. You're studying for a degree, and part of the studying involves you setting up late in the night and then waking back up early in the morning to get your assignments ready. Right? Now, they did a study with healthy young men, and they deprived them of sleep for 3 weeks. How much weeks did I say? 3 weeks, right? Prior to this study, they took their blood sugar readings. Normal, no signs of diabetes. After depriving them for 3 weeks, and they took their blood sugar readings, they had blood sugar readings of persons who were pre and diabetic. That is just depriving of sleep. Now, remember what we said. Temperance is using that which is good, enough of it, and abstaining from that which is bad. How does this tie into diabetes? What is the night made for? Sleeping. We work in the day, we go to sleep in the night. But if we're working all day, and then we're working all night, is that being temperate? So that is one law that is getting affected. What is the other one? Rest. Right? And as we see here with this study with the young men, 3 weeks produce elevated blood sugar levels. Imagine if you're doing this for a 4-year degree. You're doing this every night for 4 years. Right? Which is why you find persons who work night shift tend to have higher than normal blood sugar levels. Because it's disturbing the entire rest and circadian rhythm. Right? Now, you haven't put a sweet thing in the mouth yet, you know. You haven't eaten no high fat, you haven't eaten no high sugar. But by just doing this, the blood sugar level goes up. And if you want to understand how it does it, quick and simple example. If you are going down the road right now, and as we get right there to Mama's Gap, a ferocious pit bull runs out at you. Your body, seeing that, is going to prepare to do one of two things. Well, one of three things. As the next one has been added. It's going to either prepare to fight that pit bull, flight, which means run away from the dog, or freeze. So that's the three reactions. Fight, flight, or freeze. That's the three reactions the body will react. Right? Now, in preparation for any of those, especially fight and flight, you will need what to perform? Energy. Energy, right? Now, what is energy? What is the source of energy in the body? Glucose. Well, carbohydrates is the source, but it is broken down into glucose. Now, your body stores glucose in short-term energy stores, in the muscles and liver, and in long-term in the fat. So in a case like this, your body is going to release extra glucose in your blood in preparation, giving you the fuel that you need for whatever action you're going to take. Now, let's say you decide to run away and you jump over somebody's yard and you're safe. By taking that action, you will use up that extra glucose that came in the bloodstream and everything comes back down to normal. Right? Situation is alleviated, everything is back to normal. Now, here is the thing. Your body cannot perceive or your body cannot differentiate between real threats and perceived threats. Now, what does this mean for us? If you have, and let's use a recent example. During the COVID, a lot of persons got laid off. Right? A lot of jobs were cutting back, persons got laid off. So imagine you are a man who is the sole provider for the family, and you got laid off in COVID. You have a wife and 4 children. Immediately, natural response, that is going to induce stress. Right? Now, remember what we said earlier. Your body cannot differentiate between real stress of a dog in front of you and perceived stress in your mind. or real threat and perceived threat. Now what is going to happen? Because he is perceiving that stress, his body is going to react the same way. It's going to start dumping glucose in the blood in preparation for some event. Now the bad part is there will never be a utilization of that energy because he's not going to fight anything. This is just in his head, but the body is responding. So if you have glucose being dumped in the bloodstream, night after night, day after day, and it's not being used up, what happens to the glucose level? It goes up, it goes up, it goes up, and if that remains elevated for an extended period of time, you will find that your body starts to become insulin resistant and eventually could develop diabetes. Now he hasn't touched a candy, he hasn't eaten any high-fat foods, just up here. Right? Interesting indeed. Right? And then the use of water, trust in divine power. Now, trust in divine power could also tie back to that same story, right? Because if that same guy believed that my God shall supply all my needs according to his riches and glory, then what is that going to do to his stress? It's going to keep the stress down. What is that going to do to the blood sugar? It's going to keep the blood sugar down, and he's going to put his hope and confidence in somebody way bigger than him, way bigger than his boss that laid him off, and as a result, he will never reach this stage. Make sense? So what you're beginning to realize is that every single disease that you will come upon in life has a sequence of events before getting there. Right? And if you understand the sequence like we're doing here tonight, you can then reverse the sequence, stop the violations, and affect the condition. Make sense? So if you go with the attitude that you can fix or reverse most diseases, you will realize that you do not have to be held slave, for example, by the drug industry. Right? We're just pumping you with drugs. Now let me ask you something. The reason for diabetes is an elevated blood sugar, right? As we see, elevated blood sugar. That's one of the conditions. Elevated blood sugar came because of a violation of the 8 laws of health. Correct? Now, which of these laws say that you have diabetes because you lack insulin? Which of these says is it because of lack of drugs why you develop this condition? So where drug comes in, and just to bring it up, drugs come in this part. So what drugs do? When your blood sugar elevated, they give you something like metformin to bring the blood sugar down. But the reason the blood sugar was elevated is not because it was lacking metformin. Right? The reason you are wheezing is not because it was lacking an inhaler. The reason you are having an elevated blood pressure is not because you are lacking statin drugs. It is because you violated here, you violated these laws of health, and it is causing this. So if you continually use drugs, and drugs is not the cause, what happened? This is what drugs do. And let's just bring it up here, right? So, I'm going to run out of space. So the system runs like this. Let's go back from the top. A disease is formed when the system is freeing from a condition that results from a violation of the law of health. You reverse the sequence, you fix the disease. When you introduce drugs, the drugs will get rid of one condition, but what happens? It creates condition, let's put C2. Condition number 2. And then what happens to the system? The system starts to free itself from that condition and it forms another disease. Then you need another drug to fix that, which will bring condition number 3. And then condition number 3 will create the next system free, which will create another disease. And this goes on, which is why when you start to use drugs, for one condition, you have to go for 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, if you are a drug manufacturer, this is an extremely profitable business model. Because imagine giving somebody 1 hand of planting, and then in 5 weeks they come back and buy 7 hand, and that number keeps going back over and over and over. It's extremely profitable. But for your body, it is detrimental. Make sense? Right? So, your sickness is not a lack of drugs. It is disobeying laws of health. So if that is the case, then fix this, you won't need this, and you will reverse that. Make sense? Any questions? These lectures, we just get into the point and moving on now. Right? We just get into the point and moving on. So, what you will see here, and you will see it in the fact sheet, when we leave here tonight, I want you to go home and start paying attention to your body. If you find yourself, when you wake up in the morning having allergies, pay attention. If you find yourself, whenever somebody has a cold, you catch the cold, pay attention. And see if you can start to identify which of these laws of health you may be ignorantly so, violating, right? Because maybe not intentionally doing it, you just didn't know about it. And then see if you can start to reverse it. Right? See if you can start to work your way back. And when you become more in tune with your body, it will now be easy to identify exactly where you're going wrong and make necessary correction. Make sense? Any questions? Clear as mud? So the question is, we're not going to system frame, we're just going to use the example of diabetes. So let's go from the start. So let's just say proper diet, we got here to the blood sugar being elevated. Now, what you would notice is that these two here, the system frame and conditions, is like a balancing act. So the system is always trying to fix what is over here before it gets here. Now, a case where the system will be freed is that, let's look at the case of insulin. So, when your blood sugar, this is the normal function of the body. When the blood sugar levels are high, what happens? The body will signal the release of insulin. Now, insulin is like the doorman that goes into the cell, opens the door, and puts the sugar away, so that the blood sugar could come down in the blood. So it takes it out of the blood and puts it in the cell. Right? Now, that would be an example of the system freeing. So when the levels come high, the system freeing is that the cells will try now, the insulin, will try and signal and move that excess and put it out of the body. Now, when this system fails, it will then develop into a disease. Let me show you how it would happen. If your blood sugar levels, which is the condition, is constantly being elevated, there comes a point where the cells, the doorman, which is insulin, will come and knock, and the cells just start hearing him, so they will not respond. So now you need two doormen. So instead of 1 unit of insulin, you need two doormen to go and shake, and then you will open. But if the blood sugar continues to remain elevated, then you need 3 doormen, which is why they start in how much of an insulin, and they start moving up, moving up, moving up, moving up, which is come back to this. The problem was not a lack of insulin, the problem was that the cell was not responding. So when we do a diabetes reversal protocol, for example, what we do is start one by putting the person on a more whole food plant-based diet. Right? That is the start. Now what this will do, this will start to naturally bring down the amount of glucose that is in the blood. Right? And next thing we'll do is start increasing exercise. What exercise does, remember what is the two short-term storage for blood glucose? It is the liver and your muscles. So if you build more muscles, you have more sponge to take blood sugar out of the blood. Right? So once we do this now, the blood sugar is going to come down. The cells is now going to start to respond to not 3, but 2, eventually 1, and come back to the baseline. All without using drugs. Now, let me just stick this in. We cannot tell you to come out with drugs because we didn't put you any drugs. So just a disclaimer, I'm sure it will come somewhere on the screen when we broadcast this. We cannot tell you any information we give is for educational purposes only, of course, to speak with a healthcare professional. And I can't tell you to come out with drugs because I'm going to put you on drugs. Right? So what we normally do, we work with the doctor. And once we start the protocol reversal, the doctor will monitor the blood sugar levels and they will start to bring down the amount of insulin or metformin, whatever the drug is, of choice until the person comes right off. So that is what we have seen with the clients that we work with. And it's always wise to work with the healthcare professional. Right? So just want to put that in there. So that's what the system free will be like. In the case of asthma, the condition is difficulty breathing. Right? The wheezing would also be a form of system freeing. Because in the wheezing, your body trying to force air in. So that is the system now trying to correct the condition that's going on here. Right? So there's everybody understand the system free and condition part? Alright, cool. So that's exactly how it works. And this right here, this is your warning that something is wrong. This warning could be that your medicals, you find that your blood pressure is a little bit higher than normal. You find that your blood sugar is a little bit higher than normal. And something to note, right? Depending on when you take your blood sugar, they could read higher than normal. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're diabetic. A more accurate test would be a HbA1c, which takes it over a longer period of time, and then it gives you an average. Right? So that's a more accurate test. Just taking a blood sugar test, depending on when you take it, like if you take it right after eating a meal, it's going to be higher than normal. Right? Just like your blood sugar, not just like your blood pressure. If you just walk this step, and this is when we used to do blood pressure readings in Kingston. So the office was upstairs on the middle floor. Suppose we walk into the office and take the blood pressure high. Right? So what we have to do is have them relax, come back down to a calm state, and then take the blood pressure. And then someday you need to take 2 or 3 different readings at random times. If you see a trend that every time they're supposed to come, they have a blood pressure of over 130 over 80, then you know something wrong. But if they come 130 over 80, they relax and they back down to 110 over 80, then you know that was probably just a random spike. Right? Perfect. Any more questions? No? Everything clear as mud. Alright. So, just put this in there for the online viewers. If you have any questions, just type them below and we will answer them in the following night. Alright, so we'll just put that in there. Alright, so thank you so much for joining us for Why Do We Get Sick? Now, does everybody understand why we get sick? Okay, does everyone understand why we get sick? Everybody understand tonight what was the cause of disease? Do you believe that this is random? It just happens. Right, there's a sequence of events. Now, let me take this in, because we are in a... Well, let me just take this in. We didn't touch on it tonight. Right? And I'm going to try and put this in a way that it does not destroy everything I just said before. Alright? So, you normally get sick from a violation of the laws of health, violation of spiritual laws, or, and I'm going to stick this one in with a big or, because of spiritual warfare. You couldn't get sick like that. Now, let me give you an example in the Bible. Everybody remember Job? Right. So, the Bible says that Job was a righteous man. So we could assume that Job followed the laws of the health laws. We could also assume that Job followed the spiritual laws. But yet Job ended up with a bunch of boils, sores, and these different conditions. If we read the same narrative, it tells us exactly why. And that was a spiritual warfare. Now, let me ask you a question. Is there anything in the health laws that would protect you against spiritual warfare? Trust in divine power. That is it right there. And Job trusted in divine power, and eventually that condition was reversed. Yes or well, that disease, if you want to call it, was reversed. Yes or no? So even though you could get sick because of spiritual warfare, you will still be protected by following the laws of health. Right? Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that every time you get sick is a spiritual warfare. Right? You must first look at this, and then once you exhaust this, you could go over there. Right? So, just thought I'd put that in there, at least just to clear the air on that. Make sense? Excellent. So, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tomorrow's topic is going to be rather interesting, and it is, let me make sure I read it properly, because I have to be congruent in everything I say, night after night. So, tomorrow's topic is going to be, and make sure that you are here. Right, let's get it up. Perfect. Exposing the number one killer. So, if you had noticed the topic sequence flows into each other. So last night, we looked extensively at the laws of health. Tonight, we are looking at why we get sick. Tomorrow, we are going to attack the number one killer in the world. Right? And we're going to see what causes it, using the same pattern we did here, but more in depth on how we could actually prevent ourselves from becoming the next statistic. Now, I will have you know that this killer kills more people than most of the wars going on right now. Right? But tomorrow we'll talk about that. So make sure to come back tomorrow and we'll dive into that. And bring a friend, of course, bring a friend. Very good. I'm glad to see you brought a friend. And again, to our online viewers, remember to share the link so others can also benefit from what we have taught here tonight. So we're going to hand it back over now to Mommy so that we can do the closing hymn, and then we'll have a closing prayer, and you will be on your merry way. All right, you guys had fun tonight? You guys learned something new? Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us in this segment of the 1 week seminar. We trust that you have been blessed. Remember to download your handout and most importantly, take one action step and apply it into your life. Join us again tomorrow for the next segment of the 1 week health reset webinar.